So today, my name is Justice Okayalote. I'm one of the working group members for Let's Connect. I'm happy to walk you all through the first part of this session where we talk about what we are going to be discussing today, who our sharers going to be, and what the Let's Connect culture is like. Next slide. So today we have three speakers, two from the Wikimedia Foundation research team, and then we have the 2024 Functionary of the Year, Vira, Motorko also joining us to share with us. We also have Ellen Asikin-Garmager from the design team at the foundation. We also have Claudia as well. Next slide. As you all know, this session, we are very particular about trust and safety. So check out from any Let's Connect working group members with LC attached to their name, their screen names. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, you can DM them in the chat if you have any form of safety concerns about this session. Next slide. Also, interpretation. For today, we only have interpretation for French and Spanish due to clashing sessions happen within today. So we can only bring you French and Spanish interpretation. Next slide. So let's connect culture. So as you all know, or if you are new to this space, Let's Connect is a peer learning program that was jointly brought together by the Wikimedia Foundation and the Wikimedia movement. We are always happy to have you all here. Peer learners is one of the most important things for us. That is why we created this space. So have a good time. Please feel confident, comfortable to share anything. It's a safe space. We are all here to learn. As peers, there's no right or wrong answer, and there's no right way or wrong way to do anything. If you have something to share, please, no matter your experience, be happy to have you share them, especially in a session like this where we are all trying to build our capacity as local admins in our various languages. Next slide. So why are we here today? So today, basically, we are going to be introduced to the functionary roles within the Wikimedia ecosystem. We're also going to learn about some of the processes of becoming an administrator and the best practices for sustaining them. But the caveat here is that we are not going to sort of talk about everything or every role that admins have to go through. We are here going to share the experiences from the research from the foundation and also from Vira, who is also the functionary of the year. So if you are here and you also have any process or any practice that has worked for you as an admin, as a functionary, please, we are open to also listening to everybody. So be very open and share as much as possible as you can in this session with us as well. Next slide. So as you all know, today's agenda is pretty straightforward. We have a check-in and introduction, which is what I'm currently doing. After that, there'll be an icebreaker, and then we'll have our first presentation by Claudia, and then we'll go a round of Q&A after that presentation, and then we'll do our second and third presentations, and then we'll do a third round or a second round of Q&A, and then we'll do breakout sessions where we will break into two groups to sort of share ideas and reflect on what we've been able to discuss within the three presentations. And then there'll be a final group reflection. And then we'll end our wonderful session for today. So we look forward to your continuous support and interaction during this session. We know admins or local functionary roles are very important now in the Wikimedia movement. And so we want to have a section where a lot of information is being shared so that the myriad of admins from the various regional bodies can also share their ideas so that we can have a very great session. So at this stage, next slide, and we move to the icebreaker. So I pass it on to my colleague Chuno for the icebreaker.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Justice, for giving us the time to break some ice. So here there is a link in the chat. It's a link to a Canva board, which you can easily access and update. And your icebreaker question for the day is, what comes to your mind when you hear the term Wikimedia functionaries? Anything that comes to your mind. If you're hearing this for the first time, if you already know what our functionaries roles look like, or you are aware of the responsibilities, it's like if you want to describe it using one single word or an image or anything that comes to your mind, feel free to add it on the Canva board, or you can type it in the chat if you're joining from a mobile device. Or if we can check some energy in the room, if any of you would like to unmute and share your response, that would be super helpful. So your question, what comes to your mind when you hear the term Wikimedia functionaries? Okay, I see there are responses on the sheet. It's easy. Okay, I can't understand the language, but whoever has written, if you can, please unmute yourself and share. That would be super helpful. Is it Mina, Myna, or Mina, or how is that pronounced?
Just to confirm, Chino, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
We also welcome you to just type your answer in the chat. If you don't want to use the Canva board, that is also okay.
I'll start with probably my response. When I heard the Wikimedia functionary term for the first time, I thought, being my engineering mindset, I thought it's probably some kind of functionality that we are integrating to any of our sites, or some automated feature that helps the Wikimedia projects to enhance the performance. But then I came to know that it's not that. It's people who play that role. Okay, somebody has written busy. Yes, it is. A person fulfilling a role or function / in the wiki ecosystem. Yes. Wikimedia volunteers with special responsibilities. Yes. Veteran people. Okay. No. Even if you are not veteran, if you are new to the ecosystem, but you have the capabilities. Okay, I don't want to be the spoiler this time. Bureaucracy, the word is quite lofty. Okay. Somebody has written how things run. Functionaries. Okay. Suyesh, can you describe this image that you have put?
So, when this first I heard about this functionary word, so because I am also engineer, so I and Chinu on the same page, like, okay, Now some mathematical, like deep mathematical section is started in Wikipedia, but later on I came to know like, okay, the man who is, equipped with all the swords, or a person who is not only fixing the things but also strongly fighting against the vandalism. So this is one of the important role of a functionary. So yeah, this is why I've chosen this particular image.
Okay, that's interesting. I see Angel has shared in chat people with special roles. Okay. Somebody has put it in the board, someone who guides others, but it's also under their own guidelines. Okay. Okay, I would like to ask our sharers as well, though they are already familiar of the functionaries, but what was their experience when you heard the term functionary for the first time? Claudia, Eli, Vira, any of you would like to share?
I was the one who wrote busy, so that's my view. The more I learned about how much Wikimedia functionaries are doing every day to keep the different projects running smoothly, the more I was like, we really are asking people to do a lot on their volunteer time.
Okay. So you pretty much had an idea already.
I remember that when I first heard this word, I thought about a person with a role of secretary in a political party or something, because that's what the word means in other contexts outside of Wikimedia. And recently I've heard someone say rather nice meaning of functionary in a Wikimedia sense, which I liked, that functionaries are people who decide what and who can remain on Wiki. We can argue about that, but there is something to it.
You are already seeing +1 to your response, Veera, in the chat. There is another image. Rules are good, but rules help control the fun. Okay.
I saw a raised hand by somebody, but then they put it down. It says Manda. Do you want to go ahead and add your comment?
Yes, please. Good evening, everyone. From my end, as I've said, when I think of the Wikimedia functionaries, what comes to my mind is that group of trusted people or volunteers who hold special responsibilities across Wikimedia projects. I'll be thinking like someone like an administrator, yeah, something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't see any other new responses. So with this, thank you everyone for participating in our icebreaker. And now we will move to our next section, which will be by Claudia. And over to you, Claudia.
Give me just a second. I need to start presenting this. Let me... Oh, or you have it all. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having us here today. I'm here to present on some findings from a research study we did last year about Wikipedia administrators, how they are recruited, how they think of their work, and sort of how or why they might stop their work as administrators. As you can see on the screen, we had many, many co-authors, so we are just two people out of a broader team today. Next slide, please. And my section today will be about how the process of becoming an administrator, right? What are the roles? What are the rights associated with it? And what are the pathways that people can take to go from an editor into becoming an administrator? I'll be talking about these in terms of who are Wikipedia admins first. Thank you very much. You have read my mind. So the first question are, who are Wikipedia admins? Who are functionaries? Who are sysops? Why are there so many words for this kind of job? Well, when we started looking into it, the first thing that becomes very clear is that across the hundreds of different language editions of Wikipedia, everyone does it a little bit differently. Now, most of the time, we can call Wikipedia administrators as basically the group that is usually in charge of making sure the rules of their wiki are being followed. Most of the time, these people are in this user group called sysop for systems operators. This is an older term used. Most of the time, they're now called administrators. But there are a lot of other roles that do things like administrators that also contribute to the healthy running of any Wikipedia or wiki project. So we listed some of the other ones on screen that also perform what we call administrative actions or administrative rights. Generally speaking, we think of administrative rights as these four main ones, which are protecting pages, blocking users, deleting pages, or changing user rights. So these are sort of the four actions that we use to measure administrator activity. But again, different wikis can bundle these rights differently. So for example, on Portuguese Wikipedia, the rollbacker right, which usually is associated with the ability to mass undo edits, on Portuguese Wikipedia specifically, this group is also allowed to block obvious vandals for up to 24 hours. Now, this is a restriction that the community has set, and it's also enforced by the community. There is nothing in the software that says that they can't block anyone for much longer than 24 hours, but it's sort of a rule that they all abide by and follow on that wiki. So if we look across sort of the full range of wikis across the movement, we've count roughly 3,200 users in admin-like positions. When you compare that to the number of active administrators, that's actually not a very big number, right? Sorry, the number of active editors. That's not a very big number, right? If you just think about how many active editors there are compared to how many admins there are, that can sometimes have quite a big gap. Okay, so now we know a little bit about who they are, the fact that there's not that many of them compared to the number of editors, the fact that the names can be a little bit different, but really we're talking about people who are trying to make sure their wikis run smoothly. What do they do? Next slide, please. Again, typically, like I said, we think about this in terms of the rights they have, the ability to do certain things that need specific technical ability on the software of MediaWiki. These rights enable them to carry out specific responsibilities. So very often, the way that these groups are organized are by what kinds of rights do you need to carry out the responsibilities that you have. So on this slide, you can see, for example, admins have the right to block users because that lets them carry out the responsibility of banning unconstructive users, right? People who are breaking the rules, people who have been warned but don't seem to listen to the warning, people who are being harmful to the project overall need to be removed. We can do that by blocking them. Therefore, admins have this ability to block to carry out the responsibility of removing unconstructive users. They can delete pages, and that's to be used to delete unencyclopedic pages or pages that break the rules. They can protect pages to prevent further damage, and then they can change user rights according to community decisions. The word sometimes is there because this is actually one of the abilities where we see the greatest amount of variety across different wikis. Sometimes changing user rights, admins can only add or change certain user rights or user groups. Sometimes some of the more, let's say, dangerous or sensitive groups, only another class of users, usually called bureaucrats, only they can do it because, for example, it could be really dangerous if you let any administrator add anybody else to the administrator group. Maybe you want to restrict this ability because it might be a security issue or a privacy issue and so on. Or sometimes you might want to make it easier for certain people to add some kinds of groups. So, for example, you have event coordinators or account creator user groups that can rapidly add a lot of people to user groups that help prove, yes, this is a trusted editor, but maybe not to some of the more, maybe not to some of the groups that have more expansive rights. Next slide, please. And now on to, I think, the big question. How do you become an admin? Really broadly speaking, we always see that this happens by some kind of community decision process. It's never just one person who decides, yes, you can become an admin. There's almost always some way for the whole community, or like at least the community of existing administrators, to have some kind of say in who should become an admin. And the process always involves some kind of requirements. And we split them up between formal, which we mean they are written down somewhere, you can look at them, you can reference them, formal requirements, and informal requirements, which are very often not written down, or they're things that you have to kind of socially understand. An example of a formal requirement might be something like, your account needs to be at least 6 months old and needs to have made at least 5,000 edits, something like that, right? But an informal requirement might be something like you have to have editing history that proves you follow the rules. It's unlikely you get admin if you've been frequently blocked, frequently banned, frequently gotten into arguments about the rules with other people, right? Nobody writes down that you're not allowed to do this, but it's sort of a signal that, well, maybe we don't want somebody who fights about the rules to be in charge of enforcing them. So we've observed 3 different kinds of community process across the wikis for how people become admins. The first one is that there is no formal process, that this is common on smaller wikis where people maybe post a request for adminship on something like a village pump or possibly even on off-wiki groups. Because the communities are small, it's easier for everybody to sort of know everybody, to have a sense of who this new candidate is, what they're like. And so there's no real need per se to have this bureaucratic process built up to collect or kind of write down community consensus. And usually at the end of it, no matter whether that community says yes or no, the actual switch, right? Like the part where the person gets this administrator user right usually requires going to MetaWiki and making a request there to finally get access to these tools. Then we see 2 other more built up or more formalized forms of becoming an admin, one which is consensus based and one which is voting based. I wouldn't really say one is better than the other, right? They're just different. For example, English Wikipedia uses a consensus-based decision process. Their request for admin process involves a user usually asking another admin to nominate them. It's considered sort of impolite to nominate yourself, right? You need to find someone to sponsor you. And then the community discusses it for 7 days. And at the end of that process, they basically say, is there consensus for this person to become an administrator? So they're using the same consensus-based method as most other decisions on that wiki. Other Wikipedias, like I believe German and French, have a voting-based system. The actual discussion part can look very close to a consensus system, but usually there's a formal vote at the end with restrictions or requirements for who can become a voter and vote on an individual request for admin case. The voting thresholds also varied between wikis, but we have seen they're usually somewhere between 67% yes as the minimum to up to 75% yes at a minimum. And here I should also say that administrator candidates are coming from the same group as editors, right? That kind of makes sense. Most administrator candidates are very active editors, so they're coming from the same pool. But I want to make this point clear because it means a lot of the same problems with maybe diversity or inclusivity that we sometimes see in editor groups, well, administrators can often suffer from the same kinds of problems. That's what I mean when I say that these are downstream of the same demographics, right? If you are drawing your administrators from a big pool of editors, whatever kind of population issues the editors have will be reflected in the administrator pool itself, right? So I'm hoping that this isn't too discouraging. I do want to, remain truthful to what we have observed, but at the same time, kind of, I hope not to discourage people, but I want to give you an honest description of what this process is currently like. I know I'm coming in under time, but I think it might be more interesting to have more time for discussion here. If you could move on to the next slide, please. So we thought that after this very quick description of who are administrators, what are they doing for their wikis, what are they doing day to day, I thought it would be better to maybe let the attendees here talk to each other. And so we have 4 prompts, 2 for current or maybe former administrators. If you could just maybe write in chat or in a second, say out loud, what was your experience of becoming an administrator on your wiki? Maybe 1 or 2 sentences about the kinds of things you did as an administrator for your wiki, and then what kind of advice you would give others who are thinking of becoming an administrator, right? And then on the flip side, for anyone who is not an administrator or perhaps has not had that experience, what questions or concerns do you have about becoming an administrator? And why would you want to, or why would you not want to become an administrator? So I'm very excited to hear from all of you. I often think of myself as learning more from these than I am necessarily teaching, right? So yeah, I'm very excited to hear what people have to say.
Given that I'm able to insert 5 words here, being the first one, thank you so much for the research that you've done, because as an ordinary editor, I'm usually only inside my own community and I don't look outside much. So learning about all the varieties of implementations of the same thing, just really interesting and useful. It's just a necessary reminder of how different we actually are in achieving the same goals, and it helps to remain open-minded to maybe other ways of how the same things can be done. Especially if something is not necessarily working in your own community, you can always have a look at how other people are doing.
Suyash, I do see your hand. I want to acknowledge some of the comments that came into the chat right before you raised your hand first. So if you don't mind, I will just read some of them out loud. And if I read your comment out loud, feel free to come off mic. If not, we'll just acknowledge what you said. So Suzanne Wood stated or asked a question, when you are an admin, are there unwritten rules / nuances on how to do it? Claudia kind of added this a little bit that it's a little bit different on each wikis, and it's not just one person that decides this. I think culture adds a lot to it. But I want to bring this back to Claudia, or actually anyone too, but first to Claudia about answering this.
Sure, that's a fantastic question. When we were doing the study and we talked to current and former administrators, the answer is yes. There is a sense of not just how you should enforce the rules, but how to do it well. Funnily enough, people found it really hard to describe what it looks like. But one of the common themes was saying it's important once you become an administrator to understand when it is more appropriate to be lenient, to not enforce things as harshly, to be able to understand, well, maybe this is a newcomer and they seem to be in good faith, so I don't need to be as hard as I could be, right? I don't need to be really extreme to enforcing the rules every time. That it's better to understand where there might be some flexibility or some ability to be kind of understanding and caring in how you're applying the rules. I think one of the themes was that as a new editor, you want to kind of prove you are good at it. And early on, that might look like, oh, I'm going to be the fastest at responding to anti-vandalism. I'm going to be, doing the most actions and the most activity. And one of the themes was that, well, the longer that you stay in this role, the more you have to understand, like, what does it mean in the long term for my community if I'm just blocking everybody and I'm not maybe spending time, but also thinking about things like how do I teach newer admins, right, to come to the same conclusion? How can I support people if they're feeling tired or burnt out, that kind of thing. So yes, there are many unspoken rules, and I'm sure the current and former admins on this call could also add to what I've said.
Thank you, Claudia. Sesmanda also replied that they want to become one for Luganda Wikipedia under Wikimedia Community User Group Uganda, because they have been an active member since 2017 and a team lead, but they do not have any local admin of the language, and the only one they have is not a native of the language. I think that we need the language speakers to run this wiki. That is an example of a very specific personal local challenge that comes with the smaller language wikis, of course. And I think having this space to talk about the processes that are overall for the Wikimedia movement versus what local ones for local admins and functionaries do, which is very different. I think this is a nuanced conversation overall. But I do want to acknowledge other people that have come into the chat. And so, yes, you've had your hand raised. So I will go to you and then to Jeffrey and Emmanuel. And that will be the order we go in. So, Suyash, over to you.
Yeah, well, my experience of becoming administrator on the Fiji and Avdi Wikipedia was excellent. Like all I need to, first of all, like I need to be a good editor on both wikis, and then I realized like many things, like because these are the very small wikis, and uh, like I applied for the admin rights later on. And then I realized like these wikis also need interface admin because these two wikis doesn't had gadget at that time. So, that was really very fantastic experience, and community uh, respected the couple of decisions, and it really helped me to fight against the vandalism because, especially in the Fiji Wikipedia, I noticed couple of people who are continuously vandalizing. So I need someone to be there to block because there was only one admin, and I think he was on on leave, was like he was not active at that time. However, there are many Wikipedia where the process of becoming an administrator is very tough. Like you are giving some some university entrance exam like thing. Uh, like the existing admins, they are not welcoming for new people. They want to any newcomer to do so many things like uh, follow all the minute and tiny rules and etc. And to be very honest, the couple of the communities are not welcoming uh, uh, new administrators, or maybe even the persons who have at least smaller rights, like let's say a rollbacker or maybe the patroller things. So yeah, couple of communities are not very welcoming for any new functionaries, but rest of the small wikis, they I don't think that there is some issues. Yeah.
Thank you, Suyash. I want to take it over to Balukuku. Brian, I hope I am not butchering your name, and if I am, I apologize, but feel free to come off mic.
It's fine, it's fine. Thank you so much. I'm Baluko Brand from Wikimedia Community User Group Uganda. I also contribute to Luganda Wikipedia. So my experience is there is too much information to consume, especially for someone who wants to become an admin. And also when you go through the applications, at times what you see is the rejections. And on a certain beat, you feel demotivated. You say, do I really need to apply for the process? And then a thought came to me that can't we get someone like maybe a mentor to guide us through the process? So I tried looking around. I tried looking for anyone on the Luganda Wikipedia. At least maybe I can send them a message, say maybe on their top page. But I found that the person is one. So my question goes that is there some sort of mentorship when someone, say, applies for the rights to become an admin and the rights are granted? Because there are lots of tools that someone is going to use, and at times you don't know how to use those rights. And also the information to consume is too much. But if you have someone to guide you or to mentor you, or maybe perhaps assign some tasks so that you follow through and you become a better admin. So do we have that mentorship when you're granted rights to become an admin? Yes, that's my question.
I can say what we've seen. There are not a lot of formal mentorship programs, but because a lot of successful administrator candidates are already familiar in some way with the existing administrators, that they get to know them because they are already participating in some processes like deletion discussions maybe, or reporting vandalism. And they do it for a long time, so existing administrators kind of get to know them long before they make that request for administrator status. Those relationships wind up becoming an informal mentorship situation that we see a lot of new administrators do rely heavily on asking existing administrators for help, not just how to use tools, but maybe also how to interpret certain rules that are maybe very complicated, or how to behave or perform admin duties that they haven't done before. I believe we currently have some initiatives, both like supported by the foundation, but also just initiatives different communities have started to make this mentorship a formal process that is less reliant on just being friends with people, and to also, I believe, foster sort of knowledge sharing between different communities, not just within a single Wikipedia. But I am not, I don't remember all of those, but I think they're a great idea. And I sort of wonder if maybe Cassie or any one of your fellow colleagues knows of more.
Thank you, Claudia. I will say for the sake of time, because this naturally went into our Q&A, which was lovely. I see that Benny has a hand up, or no longer, but feel free to come off mic.
Hi. Yes. So maybe a response for the last question. My name is Benny. I am from Indonesia. I'm an admin in several projects. I'm very interested in this topic because recently we in Indonesia just made a module for admin trainings. So I was tasked making that module because I'm a long-serving admin, more than 10 years, and we are in dire need of like our own, training modules because we saw there's none of it in circulation right now. So I made some like detailed, what each tools do for those who never have any admin rights anywhere, so they have any idea how to do it. Including some, videos, how the tools is used in real life. But to answer some of the question on how new contributors who, maybe all contributors can become admin if they never seen the tools before, my not suggestion, but from my own experience, people came to know the tools either from setting up their own wiki, like media wiki, either offline or somewhere online. So they are playing around with a blank wiki and they get to know the tools, and then, oh, this is not hard. Maybe I can become admin in one of the wiki projects or something like that. Or by looking at the documentations, a lot to read, I know. And another thing is you can try to become a temporary admin in test Wikipedia. There's a test project. People can, I think, easily apply for adminship there. So you can see if it's your thing or not. And also in our projects, we are still considering something like temporary adminship. You can become a temporary 3 months, and then we can see if you are fit for this role or not, something like that. So we don't want people to get to think that this is very hard. This is like a lot to read. I cannot read all of them, something like that. So yeah, I don't want to take a lot of time. So yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much for everyone who had contributed to this audience reflection. I know the time is really limited and we really have a lot of questions, right? But I would like to call on Eli to take on the next part of this presentation. We'll do more questions and answer during the breakout room. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I really enjoyed that conversation. Thanks to all who were sharing comments in the chat and verbally as well. Uh, Thanks again for the invitation to be here today. We're really happy to participate. My name is Eli. I'm a colleague of Claudia, and I'm a member of the Wikimedia Foundation's research team. In addition to covering the roles, rights, and pathways to adminship that Claudia has just done for us, we'd like to share a few highlights from research we've done on Wikipedia administrators. So next, I'll present just a few highlights and discuss a few of the implications of these findings. Next slide, please. So last year, we concluded a project focused on Wikipedia admins, and this project included quantitative analyses that we did. It included interviews and surveys of more than 2,000 current and potential admins. Our investigation was primarily focused on a short list of 21 different larger language versions of Wikipedia, except in a few cases, which you'll see come up. To arrive at the short list, we used 1,000 weekly non-bot edits and more than 20 monthly active admins as a cutoff point. So what did we learn about the current state of admins on Wikipedia? Next slide, please. Overall, we found that while there's stability and even growth of admin numbers in most smaller Wikipedias, for a majority of the larger wikis, admin numbers are in decline. Only the larger wikis are shown in the figure on this screen. And here, what we're showing is the monthly active unique admins from January 2018 to November 2024. Of our short list of 21 larger wikis, you can see that 4 wikis trend upward, sort of growth mode. 4 are roughly neutral or flat, and 13 or over half are declining. This contrasts with smaller wikis, and by looking at over 200 smaller Wikipedias in our analyses, we found that the vast majority of them have stable or rising numbers of admins. So, why are admin numbers declining in many of these larger wikis? Is it because too many people are leaving? Next slide, please. Since 2015, the rate of admins leaving, or what we could call outflow, is actually fairly stable and even decreasing in some cases. What few bursts or sudden spikes in outflow we see are generally very closely related to specific policy changes and activity requirements for adminship. But what about the rate of admins joining? So what we see is that inflow or recruitment of new admins isn't keeping pace in some of these wikis. So we're seeing more net negatives when we look at yearly admin change. And this also explains why we observe so many long tenured admins. It's a combination of slowed attrition and high motivation. Next slide, please. The reasons admins leave the role are varied, and I think it's important to emphasize that no admin in our study ever really attributed leaving to a single cause. But frequently cited reasons that we observed are just generally increasing inactivity. This could be oftentimes due to changing life circumstances. For example, cases like returning to graduate school or having a family, we saw this come up. Second, conflict with other admins. And 3, more general loss of motivation. Secondary factors we observed included burnout or the feeling that you're working on a, quote, never-ending task. Next slide, please. Now, among potential admins, so in our surveys especially, we reached a fairly large number of potential admins. So those who essentially would qualify to undergo like a request for adminship process. And among potential admins who said they were, quote, not at all or slightly interested, we followed up in the survey to ask why. Why did they have little to no interest in pursuing adminship? Consistent with what we heard in interviews with current and former admins, part of the reason is related to the perception that admin work might be seen as taking away time from their other editing. This is by the potential admins. Let's go to the next slide then. Thank you. Another takeaway from what we learned is that the request for adminship process, the RFA process that exists on many of the larger wikis at least, is a substantial barrier for those who are interested. For example, surveyed English Wikipedia admins, that is, people who by definition are successful RFA candidates, by more than a 50% margin think it's actually too difficult versus too easy to become an admin. This has not gone unnoticed by communities, though. And so, in fact, the timing of the survey that we ran coincided with the introduction of RFA process reforms on English Wikipedia, which some of you may have heard about or maybe seen. The good news is also that there's a perception that admin candidates or new potential admins are actually more qualified than ever before. So I think that's a sort of bright spot from what we learned as well. All right. I just wanted to mention this briefly, but we did sort of take a look at in the survey to understand what the priorities of current admins are. And we found that recruitment, conflict support and policy, and automation generally sit at the top of the priority lists. And here I'm presenting just the English data, but this pattern was fairly similar among the other surveyed wikis. All right, so if we go to the next slide, let's transition a little bit. I wanted to sort of pause and ask here, how can we find ways to better support current and future admins? So the first opportunity I'd like to highlight for community policy is to consider adoption of programming that's been used elsewhere on other wikis to support current administrators and increase the inflow of new admins. So as one example, there are various examples of support programs for current admins, generally speaking. We've included links to an example from Polish, German, and French Wikipedia. So you can check those out later if you're interested. But coming back to a question that came up earlier in the conversation today, there's also an opportunity to establish better means of support for admin candidates. So we had a question earlier in the hour about mentorship, and I think we can think about this as a good example of the kind of support that would be helpful. We also heard about some modules from Indonesian Wikipedia, which I'm excited to take a look at and learn more about. From the perspective of someone who's thinking about becoming an admin, there are also some implications. So I think Claudia and I discussed this to some extent before in preparation for today. And I think there's sort of two takeaways that we'd like to highlight. And so one is that everything derives from becoming known as someone who's reliable and trustworthy and contributes to maintenance tasks. That could be things like anti-vandalism, participating in articles for deletion discussions. And so for those interested in adminship, getting started as early as possible in these cooperative processes, maybe aside from other types of editing you do, is especially important. And especially important is getting involved in those cooperative process to the greatest extent possible with the sort of current pool of admins who might be already active on your wiki. All right, so I hope I'm doing okay on time. I'll go to one final slide, or I guess one and then a quick wrap up. But yes, with that, I'd leave you with a few ideas, and there's some links here for how you can learn more about the research if you're interested, and even learn more about the RFA process on your wiki, if that's what interests you. And then finally, the last slide, please. Yes, just a thank you. We'd be happy to take any additional questions now. I haven't been able to keep my eye on the chat. There might be some things in there. But as I close, I'd just like to extend a special thanks to many of the folks you see listed here. So this work was not done alone by myself and Claudia. There was a group of folks helping us and other people providing support. And of course, a big thanks, I think, to all of the current Wikipedia admins who really make the projects the great, reliable, high-quality resources they are today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eli, and thank you so much, Claudia. It's really interesting to see all this research work that has been carried out, and also for the first time, getting to really hear from communities while they were sharing their reflections on what do they think about the admin situation in their various community. And it was also great to really get first-hand definition, I mean a clear definition of who an admin is, and also breaking it down into the 4 key activities that they carry out, which include blocking, deleting, protecting, and changing users' rights. So all of those were really clearly stated, and I love the flow of the presentation. Before we go into the breakout room, would now invite Vira to also share our personal experience being an admin and also being one of those that was recognized last year at Wikimania. It's very interesting to hear Vira's perspective as someone who is already within this role and coming to share with us what our experience has been, and also giving us some great recommendation that could really help us as we think of venturing into this adminship. So over to you, Vira, and thank you so much.
Many thanks to previous presenters and to Bukola for introducing me. I'm Vira. I'm from Ukraine. My username is Ata, though it's written in Cyrillic, so I don't expect you to find me like that. I'll be leaving a link to my user page if you want to contact me later. I want to quickly put in some disclaimers. So I'm gonna be talking about my own path as Wikimedian, my own perspective on my community, and our approaches to admin retention, and my own conclusions and advice. This is gonna be very different from what the researchers had done, right? Because I'm not using the same methods, so my presentation will not be as thorough as our foundation colleagues did. And my personal story and our community's processes might not be relevant to you, maybe not even a little. And that's okay. We've seen that so many different approaches can be used to achieving the same goals. So let's just see if there is at least something that you can use from what I'll be talking about. So the story of my wiki life goes like this. I started editing Wikipedia in 2009, which is a long time from this moment. Compared to those who were brought into Wikimedia movement by other people or through the Wikimedia events, it took me longer to become deeply involved. And I've seen that in the example of newer editors, those who start from a wiki training or any kind of Wikimedia event, those people take in the needed information to become active Wikimedians much quicker because they are immediately introduced to other people who can provide some advice and so on. So my path in that regard was longer because I was doing the research on all the traditions and rules and processes on my own. But in several years, I attended my first offline events, and by that time, I think I was already feeling part of a community, which I think this feeling is rather important in one's desire to become an admin or to fulfill any kind of other role except just editing. My first nomination for admin rights was in 2013, so full 4 years of editing, and it failed. And I want to talk about this, and I obviously can't not mention it because that's an important part of becoming an admin later. The reasons for my nomination to fail was because I didn't write it seriously, and people who my fellow Wikimedia editors who already knew me or about me by that time, they just saw that it is not a serious nomination. To put it quickly, I've befriended another Wikimedian, and together we decided to make a joint request for admin rights, which is not something that is written in the rules. And the response from the community was basically that both of you separately are experienced users enough to get your rights, but since you are playing with the rules, you are not serious, and thusly we will not grant you the rules, which is completely fine. I mean, that was the right decision by our community. That's what happened. My second admin nomination was in 2023 I was using very different reasons than my first time. After the beginning of full-scale Russian invasion in Ukraine, I decided to also take the role of admin just to be let's say a spare admin if anything happens and we need another person, because admins are rather rare, right? Their numbers are small in all wikis compared to the number of editors, and so just another one would be a great thing to have. My nomination got 100% approval, even though I nominated myself, which is, again, I would say not something that commonly happens in my community and in general. So but that's just my story. Again, it's not something that describes everyone's experience. Let's look at some common hardships that everyone's talking about around getting an admin rights in a bigger wiki, because Ukrainian Wikipedia is among the bigger ones. So it takes a long time, and sometimes it takes several attempts, which was true even for me, even though I had not the most common of reasons for that. The second of what I would like to highlight here, users vote only for those whom they know. this is something I've heard a lot. Like there is the perception of an admin clique existing or something who only votes for those whom they know. And there are hidden rules that you can't learn from public pages because they aren't codified. For example, in some wikis, it is frowned upon when the user nominates themselves. And it can even be the instant reason for declining such a request. Even though in other wikis it would be totally fine, like in my own wiki. And I think that all of these are true, but I would like to point out that all of these can be perceived from different point of view, from different perspective. Having unwritten traditions is very human, and I would say that future admins should know their community. So it can be said that if by the moment of nominating themselves, if prospective admin is not aware that nominating themselves will be frowned upon, then maybe they are rushing things because they probably need to know that in order to become an admin successfully. Secondly, it really takes time to learn all those, and it's unfortunate, but it's natural if rushed applications fail. So here I want to agree with Eli and his and Claudia's suggestions that future admins will have to start preparing themselves to be an admin from early on in order to not waste the time that they need. And community really does vote for users that gained trust, meaning users who are known. And I think it's good because that means that this user really gained that trust in eyes of many different people, which means something, right? Not only for being voted for or recognized as future admin in non-voting process, but to maintaining their position and their role in the community, being trusted is very important. In Ukrainian Wikipedia, we have several approaches to how we try to make things better around adminship. And I will not be mentioning everything that we're doing, just the 3 things that sort of answer the problems that I mentioned on previous slides. So firstly, we try to reach out to promising users and suggest that, hey, maybe would you like to think about becoming an admin? So that the person has this idea before they decide to become an admin themselves and have the time to learn more and not to rush as soon as their idea pops up in their heads naturally. Usually people who are approached in this way, they decline because this is new information that they didn't know about, that they didn't think about. But planting the seed of an idea into a good head of a good future admin is something that I think all of experienced editors try to do from time to time. Secondly, an admin, in the end, an admin needs to do a lot of different work. There are, as was previously said, 4 big blocks of actions and decisions that admins can make on Wiki. And even though in Ukrainian Wikipedia, for example, in the process of nominating someone for an admin, we ask admins to state which of those responsibilities a future admin would like to work on. So we're not expecting a person to do everything. But then again, it's good for an admin to be at least aware of different workflows and technical possibilities and whatnot. So we try to encourage people to do more work before they nominate themselves or are nominated for getting admin rights. There is an essay called Admin Work for Everyone, which lists some actions that are often perceived as admin work, but are actually not admin work at all and require other rights or even none, like moving articles or reverting edits and so on. And also, it is recommended that future admins take part in discussions and all the group processes, like voting in procedures, voting for deleting articles, and so on, so that these people, on the one hand, gain the experience they need, and on the other hand, they become more visible to other people who also take part in this kind of process. And thirdly, this is something that Ukrainian community is rather proud of. Users can now get temporary admin rights for 1 or 2 months under simplified procedure before they go through the comparatively more lengthy process of becoming a full admin. So this thing was invented in 2022 as an emergency measure to quickly gain more admins just in case, but it proved to be an effective tool. It helped find users who hesitated and perceived adminship as something really truly important and rather heavy, meaning as a heavy burden on them. And it just gives them a safe way into an admin role just to try it. And last year, temporary admin rights became a standard, and from people who were who received admin rights last year, I think, sorry for not having the stats, at least half of those had temporary adminship before that, which helped them to understand how the admin rights are working, what works for them, how they will do the work, and how they can answer the questions of their fellow editors, and so on. So again, this is something that we're rather proud of, that it works, and I hope it can be used or reused or modified for use in other wikis as well. Again, things to consider: Ukrainian Wikipedia is a bigger wiki. We have almost 1.5 million articles, and yet only 46 admins, which is a rather small number. So our experience might not be relevant for other wikis. But as we've seen from the presentation of our researchers, there are always ways to look at a problem from a different perspective and try something maybe even radically different from what you've been thinking about up to this point. However unusual it is, it really helps to think about something in a different way. So that's all from me. If you have questions, we obviously are having discussion time now, but you'll be able to leave me a talk page message. I'll be glad to answer your comments if there is something that I can help with.
Thank you so much, Vira, for sharing your personal experience of how you became an admin, and also giving recommendation for resources that community members can refer back to that can also support them in their journey as they think about becoming an admin. And with that, still on the question and answer. So still on the question and answer segment, I know there's a whole lot of comments in the chat, but this is the time to respond to any questions. If you have questions for Eli or Vira or even Claudia, please do well to unmute to speak. Shreyash, your hand is raised. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, Veera, I just quick question like being as an administrator, have you ever got any kind of threats from outside Wiki about your adminship actions, maybe deletion of certain pages or all? Because couple of people also afraid of becoming an admin because maybe they get some kind of threat from outside Wiki. Especially in India, like there are caste systems, so we have seen like observed like if someone is editing continuously in particular caste, like some community, a particular community, and when admins or any not only admin but any user who take actions, then they get threat from outside. Yeah.
Yes, thank you for this question. This is indeed a problem in different wikis. As for Ukrainian Wikipedia, I think I've heard about some people receiving threats. I didn't, let's say, I shall put it like this. I didn't receive threats that I would perceive as serious, though there are some long-term abusers who like to abuse all the admins that come to touch a certain topic. So I've received emails and doc page messages wishing me bad things to happen, but not of the kind that I would really feel that are serious and harmful for me, possibly. Thankfully, I'm glad that it never came to something really bad happening. Because of this really being a real issue, I know that certain Wikimedia affiliates provide help for users, including legal help to put off the kind of people who send threats. Wikimedia France, I think, has experience with that. Not sure about Wikimedia Ukraine. Again, thankfully, because I didn't have personal need for that. And I sure hope that all the local affiliates, chapters and user groups pay attention to this and provide help for those who need it, because this is something that has to be done, and hopefully if the information spreads around that this is kind of help that can be received, then future admins will not be as scared of it, because such threats can be dealt with. Hope this answers.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, great, interesting insights there, Vera. I also see some comments in the chat. I think Francis shared something about at least 2 admins in the Catalan Wikipedia had received threats by outsiders. And that's quite unfortunate, and I hope it was properly addressed and that the admins felt they were better supported. I also have some other questions in the chat that are yet to be responded to. Just wondering if you have some quick answers to this. There's a question from Andikan. And the question is, how can one apply for an administrative role for languages that's still in the incubator? So I don't know if Vera, you have any response to that question, or anyone who is an admin.
I would hope that stewards on chat could answer that. We at least have Martin here. I think I saw him.
Okay, so while we are waiting for any response to that question, there are some other comments or questions in the chat. But please feel free to unmute to speak if you have any questions related to what Vera, Eli, and Claudia had shared on this space today. Just a quick recap. We started off by first defining who an admin is. We look at the various activities that they perform, and the research team had carefully structured that into 4 key areas. One including banning, blocking, deleting, protecting, and also changing users' rights. And we further went on to look at the community processes that are in place. And that process was also well structured in the sense that we discovered that sometimes there are no formal processes, sometimes there's need for consensus, and some other time it's based on voting. And we further went on to also hear experience from current admins and questions from community members that have been struggling to gain admin rights or get more admins to manage their wikis. And then further on, we went on to look at the current status of admins. And we discovered from research carried out that the statistics is quite lagging in the sense that we have more editors than admins. Imagine having 3,200 admins. And this was also peculiar to just some of the wikis, not all of the wikis that we have, right? And think about all the editors that we have across the different wikis. The statistics is there's a lot of gap, right? And that also boils down to how admins shared why they have been leaving, which also cut across different reasons. There's no one reason for why an admin would quit serving the wikis that they maybe have been assigned to or that they've nominated themselves to support. And then we further went on to see some recommendations, right? And which includes recruitment. There's need for more coordinated recruitment process. There's also need for conflict support. And this goes back to the comments in the chats where some admins had received threats. So how do we manage conflicts? These are some of the things that admins need to receive support for. There's also other great recommendations that could help improve the admin process, right? And then Vera also shared feedback. She also shared insights into her experience, how she started off by just nominating herself, and then she got feedback that wasn't so great at the time. As far back as 2013 when she did that nomination. Now think about the years, the gap, and when she finally got the right to become an admin. And she did share quite interesting insights into what we should learn from that process that she has gone through. Now, moving on, I'm just trying to recap all the conversations we've had so far. For those that joined a bit late, if you have any questions is still open. However, if we don't have, then we'll go straight into the activity for today's session. So we've all listened to all of the conversations, the presentation shared by the sharer, and one quick activity that we'll do within the next 15 minutes or less is we want to compare, and we want to have comparison in how the various admin processes are. What does it look like in your community? Is it clear? If it's unclear, can you let us know how you feel about the current process of getting admin rights in your community? Would also be examining or looking at the bottlenecks that exist. What are those 2 pain points that you can say out aloud or even share as we are engaging in this activity? What are those barriers? What are those things that are unclear? What criteria do you think is lacking proper documentation? These are some of the things we would be doing in this activity, and the Etherpad is in the chat already. And would also go on to think about, okay, Cassie.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I just want to say I'm going to stop recording so that this part of the activity is not recorded, because I want people to feel like they can answer these questions. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So we'll start by comparing, then we examine the bottlenecks, and then we move on to one action idea or actionable next step that we want to take as a collective in our various wikis. And what would that look like for you? We want to know the who, where, when, one step, what resources do you need? And finally, we hope that would have like a group reflection before we close out for today's clinic. So if that sounds like a great idea, please, I want to see the emoji or comments in the chat. We will not be having a breakout room. It's all going to happen in this main room. So please feel free to be as open as you can. This is a safe space. And to get started, I would like to first confirm that we are all on the Etherpad. And I don't know if I have to share my screen here.